of community group Acorn, Bertha Lewis, answering the tough questions posed to her on today's Fox News Sunday, as only Chris Wallace can do. Lewis saying she was outraged by those undercover tapes that we showed you. Quite a change from Acorn at first, saying they were false and defamatory. And she understands why Congress and the nation was outraged as well. You recall those videos? They showed a couple of filmmakers posing as a pimp and a prostitute, and they went into Acorn offices, several of them, trying to get advice from Acorn workers on how to skirt federal taxes. Here's just some of what Lewis had to say.
Is this the new and improved Acorn?
Well, what did I do? Immediately, these folks were terminated.
Well, actually, first you attacked us and said it was a political and a racial conspiracy.
Immediately. I know the sequence. Those folks were terminated immediately. And what did I also do? Make sure that we have an independent review, make sure that we suspended any walk-in activities so we could review what worked, what didn't work. In instances, those folks were thrown out. I have an obligation to my board, to my members, and to my other employees that actually did practice professional, good, high standards.
Joining me now, the host of Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace. And Chris, there's one group that she left out that she has an obligation to, the American taxpayer. All those millions of dollars that Acorn has received, and now she's saying, thank goodness the filmmaker went in there as a pimp and a prostitute to identify the bad apples that are in Acorn, part of the company. What else is she going to do now to make sure that there isn't more corruption or bad advice that's being given out in these offices?
Well, she says they had promised last week, when this really became a firestorm, that by Friday, 2 days ago, that they were going to announce an independent auditor to look at all the operations at Acorn. I looked at their website before the show. They hadn't announced it. She says now they're going to announce that tomorrow. But it's a fairly combative, as you could get from that taste of it, it's a pretty combative interview, not only between Ms. Lewis and me, but also Congressman Darrell, the top Republican on the House Oversight Committee, who has done an 88-page report on Acorn. And one of the things that he presses her on is, why don't you come before a committee? It's got a Democratic majority. Come before a committee and open the books. Part of the problem is, and I discovered this in the research, I didn't know this, because one of the questions we kept getting from emailers was, how can a nonprofit be engaged in political activity? It turns out that Acorn may be the only taxable nonprofit in the country, and that allows them to engage in political activity. So it's kind of, well, some would say a shell game. You can make up your own mind. It was certainly a tangled web where they have this taxable Acorn, which is very involved in politics, endorsed Barack Obama, is involved in supporting Democrats across the country. Then they have nonprofit subsidiaries, which are getting charitable money, state money, federal money. And so Darrell, Issa, and quite frankly I, were both asking her, are you going to change that practice? Are you going to come before an independent committee and let them look at it? No sense at all that she's going to do that.
And she isn't really obligated to. And what I found interesting, Chris, is that in addition to getting this money from the government, from the taxpayer money, they also get donations from outsiders, as you suggested, a charitable organization. And in one report I saw, charitable donations are up since this scandal broke, because they continue to insist, Acorn, that they help lower-income homeowners keep their homes in these troubling times, and so people are shelling out more money. What will happen? Will there be oversight from the Oversight Committee on money they're getting that isn't from the government?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Darrell Issa has, as I say, the ranking Republican on House Oversight, issued this 88-page report, but this was a report simply by the Republican staff. He now has to convince the big Democratic majority that, to go along and launch an investigation. Interestingly enough, in one of the Sunday talk shows today, where they didn't come on Fox, of course, Barack Obama said that he thinks there should be an investigation, but he didn't say by whom. That, I think, is the key. There's got to be an independent investigation where all these millions of dollars are, and are there firewalls between the tax-exempt and the taxable, the ones that are supposed to be involved in politics, and the divisions that are not supposed to be involved in politics.
Chris, it's a great interview.